There's something wrong with Ann. Get into it.
The video you are watching was recorded on a GoPro camera operated by 20-year-old Riley Horn.
Call 911. What's going on?
Call 911 now.
I'm calling. What's going on?
Just call 911.
Okay, I'm calling.
What?
I need a police officer, EMS. What do you mean?
Riley just discovered his father, 62-year-old retired FBI agent Scott Horn, dead outside of his father's home. A nearby police cruiser was quick to arrive at the scene. Riley struggled to keep his composure as he spoke to the officer.
My father is under a bunch.
What is that?
It's a GoPro.
Once backup had arrived, they followed Riley as he led them to his father's body.
Right here. I can't look. He's covered.
The officers took a closer look and saw no signs of life, and his upper body was brutally disfigured and covered in blood. It was immediately apparent that Scott was murdered.
I want you, listen to me. I want you out front on the porch. Have a seat. Have a seat.
You got crime scene tape? Where's the body? We got a couple more units here. Gonna have a potential crime scene.
The EMTs arrived shortly after and officially pronounced Scott Horn deceased. With a homicide on their hands, the officers decided to reconvene on the front porch to figure out a game plan.
And you all contact Kezzy.
Detective Kezzy Henderson was called to the scene to lead the homicide investigation. Upon
Damn, that nigga bald ain't got no facial hair. I'm not gonna lie, my bad. This is completely off topic, but bald and no facial hair. Come on, bro. You can't have hair. You can't not have hair on both sides, gang.
On his arrival, he was informed that just 8 hours earlier, officers were dispatched to the same residence to do a welfare check on Scott.
Nice house. His name's Scott, right?
Yeah.
At this point, Scott hadn't been heard from all day. Unsure of how to locate him, his daughter Kelly called the police to express her concerns. As the officers waited for somebody to answer the door, they could hear Scott's 2 dogs barking from inside the house. Eventually, Kelly opened the door and let the officers inside.
No police.
No police department.
She said that this behavior was completely out of the ordinary for her dad, who had an extremely disciplined routine. The officers asked if they could take a look in Scott's room, but unfortunately, he kept his room padlocked, so they moved on to the rest of the house. While one of the officers checked the rooms upstairs, Kelly led another officer to check the basement, but neither had any luck. Kelly decided that she was going to ask around the neighborhood if anybody had heard from her dad.
I'm gonna take my
Do you want to report him missing or?
I guess we'll wait till later.
Okay.
Although Kelly didn't want to report Scott missing just yet, the officers couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Kelly grabbed her dad's dogs and went on her way. The officers exited behind her and headed back to the station. Kelly's search was proving to be unsuccessful, so she called her brother Riley and explained the situation to him. Riley, who was with his friend at the time, decided to take action. He and his friend strapped up, attaching GoPros to their foreheads. They then went straight to the house and began.
Damn, they're on some Call of Duty type of mission. I feel this though. Hey, low-key. No, that's low-key smart. Just so he's not incriminating himself.
And their hunt. As they scoured the property, they suddenly heard a strange noise coming from the side of the house.
Whoa, what?
They slowly headed toward the noise, but they struggled to see anything in the darkness. Once they got closer, they spotted a tarp on the ground. They lifted it up and found Scott's body, bloody and mangled.
Oh my God.
As you saw earlier, Riley then bolted back to the neighbor's house and told his sister to call 911.
Call 911. What's going on?
Now that Detective Henderson understood the events that led up to Scott's discovery, he had some more questions for Riley. He first asked if anybody else was inside the home. Riley said that his mother, 62-year-old Ann Reed Allen, was likely upstairs in her bedroom and had been there the entire time. Detective Henderson found it strange that Ann didn't step outside with all of the commotion going on. He instructed a group of officers to go inside to make contact.
Huh? Come on, see? Damn, she must have just knew that it was over. Because if she's still up there, she knew they gonna catch her eventually.
With her.
Hello, police department. Can you come down here, ma'am? Yeah. What?
Clearly, Anne had some trouble walking as she slowly hobbled down the stairs with a crutch in her hand.
Who else lives here? Anyone else?
My husband.
Your husband?
Apparently, Anne had no idea that her husband was even missing. Since she was having a hard time on her feet, she and the officers moved to the kitchen so she could sit down.
What's going on?
Well, we're conducting an investigation right now, ma'am.
For what?
Before hitting her with the news that Scott was in fact dead, they wanted to evaluate her behavior. If you take a close look at her facial expressions, Anne initially seemed annoyed by the officers, but within moments, her demeanor shifts to completely carefree. Nonetheless, the officers were still uncertain if Anne was somehow involved in Scott's death. So once Detective Henderson arrived, he was strategic in how he questioned her.
Ma'am, Detective Henderson?
Where is Scott at?
The last night I Scott was early this week.
Anne said that she and Scott rarely saw each other unless they were discussing the terms of their upcoming divorce.
Oh,
I hardly ever see him.
motive.
He's gone most of the day, every day. He doesn't talk to me. I mean, he won't tell me anything. I don't know what else to tell you.
Have you been outside?
I was outside to put wood on the fire, but that was it.
And you didn't see Scott out there?
No.
In order to put wood on the fire,
okay.
Anne had to access the wood fire stove
lying
that is
like
located in the shed. Scott's body was directly in front of the shed doors. In other words, Anne must have been right beside Scott's body while putting wood on the fire. The fact that she supposedly hadn't seen anything immediately set off red flags for the detective.
There's a man deceased over in the yard. Okay?
There's a deceased man in my yard.
I haven't.
The detective broke the news that the deceased man was Scott, but Anne showed little emotion. Instead, she immediately began listing reasons why somebody might have wanted to harm him.
I know he gambles all the time.
She said that Scott was at the casino the night before. Perhaps he had
No
outplayed
cries,
someone and
even if
took
they're
their
divorced.
money. And that bitter
She
loser
she had 2 kids with this nigga. No crying. Come on, we know the real already off the jump. He got some thick ass eyebrows.
exacted their revenge on him. Several other theories were thrown around as well. For example, maybe a criminal that Scott had locked up during his FBI days had come back.
Oh, he was in
hell-bent on
FBI?
getting even. Scott also owned multiple rental properties and had recently evicted several of his tenants.
And he's got a lot of people that are angry.
Although Detective Henderson took these theories seriously, he also took everything Anne said with a grain of salt. He left her with one final warning.
Listen, if you know anything about that, then you need
All
to be
I
honest.
know is that
At this point, Anne wasn't providing any more useful information, so Detective Henderson went back outside to catch up with the forensics team, and they had some interesting observations to share. Scott's wallet and phone were missing, potentially pointing to a robbery turned deadly. However, in most cases, robbers will flee the scene as quickly as possible. Since the killer had taken the time to cover up Scott's body, the investigators wondered if this attack was something more personal. They were able to find more evidence to support this theory. According to the medical examiner, Scott was shot in the neck from behind.
What?
This injury
Wait,
was
how did
likely
they not hear
caused
no
by a bullet
gunshots?
that was found lodged in the shed. However, it was ultimately determined that this gunshot only would have incapacitated Scott, and the subsequent beating is actually what caused his death. They believed that this beating was done with a piece of firewood, indicated by the several wood chips found on Scott's body, but they were unable to find the piece of wood that was used. The investigators had a feeling that the killer had thrown it into the wood fire stove. The fact that Scott's assailant had shot him in the neck, realized that he wasn't dead, and proceeded to finish the job in a brutal manner suggested that this was an emotional killing. Although the detectives had their suspicions about Anne, everybody was still a suspect at this point. That includes the person who found Scott's body, Riley. They asked Riley to come down to the station for an interview. He enthusiastically agreed. He said that after a long day at work, he was hanging out with his friend when Kelly called him to help find their dad. He told
Bro, that's gotta be some traumatizing shit, bro. Seeing your parent dead on the floor like that, bro. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, bro.
the detective about the noises he heard near the shed, and said that he caught a glimpse of a mysterious figure leaving that area.
Did you actually see who it was, or?
I did not. It was just all shadow.
Okay, some figures.
Yes.
Riley was convinced that this figure was Anne. He told the detective about his relationship with his mother. Apparently, Anne had strict rules while he and Kelly were growing up, and breaking those rules resulted in heavy-handed punishments. One time, Scott tried to stand up for Kelly after Anne forced her to sleep in the hallway, and Anne pulled a gun on him. This incident didn't escalate any further, but over the years, the fighting only continued. About 30 cases involving domestic abuse or assault were opened, but none of them resulted in a conviction. Riley and Kelly eventually moved out once they were old enough, while Scott and Anne continued to live together. They installed multiple locks on their bedroom doors to keep each other out. Riley became so afraid of his mother that he would wear a GoPro camera strapped to his head to document any interactions with her. All of this information strengthened the case against Anne, but her toxic behavior and alleged abuse weren't enough to charge her with Scott's murder. The detectives needed to collect more evidence and rule out any other possibilities. While officers canvassed the area around the crime scene, Detective Henderson drove to the Live Casino and Hotel in Hanover to do 3 things. Verify the information that Anne had provided, establish Scott's timeline leading up to the murder, and investigate the theory that someone from the casino had killed him. After gaining access to the casino's security footage, the detective confirmed that Scott was there the night before, just as Anne stated. He spent a lot of his time...
Damn, bro. Niggas really be gambling their life away. Yo, I just downloaded Prize Picks. Should I delete the app before it's too late?
Gambling in the casino pit playing poker. There appeared to be no animosity amongst the players. After winning some money, Scott decided to collect his payout. It was clear that Scott wasn't exactly a high roller. His earnings for the night amounted to less than $100. It seemed unlikely that he would be killed over that much money. After collecting his cash, he took the elevator down to the parking garage, headed to his car, and left for the night. As far as Detective Henderson could tell, nobody had followed him. After viewing this footage, the investigators were confident in ruling out this killer from the casino theory. Although this lead was a dead end, officers had better luck while canvassing the neighborhood. Apparently, Anne was constantly spreading rumors about Scott. On one occasion, Anne had told the neighbors that Scott and his kids were abusing her.
I left because I was not going to be beaten up by him.
You know, I have a really hard time believing that happened.
No, because
yeah, she said,
stupid.
She said it straight like that? Oh,
and you don't know how deceptive an FBI agent can be.
Anne also reached out to their next-door neighbors, Cindy and Marty, and made several accusations against Scott. She once left this voicemail, giving them a friendly reminder about Scott's promiscuous past.
This is Ann Allen. I just wanted to give you a quick call. He's brutal. And because he ran the streets, until I married him at age 37, he was nothing but a man.
Apparently, Anne was doing this because Scott had been telling the neighbors about how horrible a wife and mother she was. Anne was just trying to set the record straight by speaking with the neighbors herself.
No, I'm not gonna lie, bro. She like in her prime. Hey.
According to Anne, the reality was that Kelly had violent tendencies, which were enabled by Scott's passive parenting style. Whenever Anne would try to do something about Kelly's behavior, she would somehow be painted as the bad guy. However, nobody seemed to believe the things that Anne was saying about her family. Cindy also showed the detectives a photo she had taken on the day that Scott's body was discovered. A slender man could be seen walking away from their property. Unfortunately, the photo was too blurry to make out any other details. Cindy had a strong feeling that this was Jason Bird, who the neighbors believed was Anne's not-so-secret lover. Based on the photo, nobody could confirm whether it was actually Jason or not. Luckily, the detectives were able to obtain this choppy video that another neighbor recorded on the day that Scott's body was discovered. In the video, Jason's truck can be seen in Scott and Anne's driveway. Now that Jason was confirmed to have been there, the detectives believed that he had helped Anne cover up the murder, taking Scott's wallet and phone and possibly getting rid of the gun used to shoot him. A few days after Scott's death, his celebration of life took place. Many of Scott's colleagues spoke at length about
was that Anne right there?
And the positive impact that he had on their lives.
Nobody could make Scott laugh more than Scott could make Scott laugh.
Riley, Kelly, and Anne sat in the front row, and many of the attendees came up to them to give their condolences. But Anne wasn't getting any sympathy from law enforcement, as they continued to find more evidence that she was responsible for his death. While searching the home, they found wood chips inside the washing machine. The crime lab tested these wood chips and found Scott's DNA all over them. This discovery implied that Anne had put something in the washing machine, potentially her own clothes, that had wood chips on them from attacking Scott. With a divorce right around the corner, the detectives wanted to know why Anne would choose to harm Scott instead of just waiting for the divorce to settle. They discovered that Scott had a $500,000 life insurance policy. He also had those rental properties that we mentioned earlier. The detectives believed that Anne had killed Scott, hoping to collect the money from his life insurance policy and the rest of his assets. On June 30th,
let me know what's going on.
Officers went to the hotel that Anne was staying in to execute an arrest warrant.
Police, open the door.
All right.
Alright, you guys find your back there in the restaurant for you.
Anne was thrown behind bars and charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and the use of a handgun during a crime of violence.
The estranged wife of a retired FBI agent is charged with murder. Police in Laurel have charged 62-year-old Ann Allen with first- and second-degree murder in the shooting of 62-year-old Scott Horn.
Anne was held without bond at the Prince George's County Correctional Facility. On July 10th, 2017, Jason was also arrested and received the same charges.
A second person has been arrested and charged in the death of a retired FBI special agent who was killed back in March. Laurel police arrested 42-year-old Jason Allen Bird of Westminster.
42? Hold on, nigga. Yo, what's going on? First time chatter, what's going on? Elisa, what's going on? What's going on?
Monday, in connection to the death of Scott Horn,
Alicia.
the 62-year-old was found in the backyard.
Wait, hasn't this person been in the chat before? Alicia? Tug, does that not look familiar? I swear.
Part of a home on Patuxent Road. Bird now faces several charges.
I swear that name looked familiar.
First-degree murder.
The police finally had their two prime suspects in custody. However, this was short-lived because after executing search warrants for Jason's home and car, they found nothing linking him to the crime. While presenting their case to the grand jury, there wasn't enough evidence to take Jason to trial, so the charges against him were ultimately dropped, and Jason was let go. The case against Jason didn't pan out, but they had plenty of evidence to convict Anne, right? Well, the prosecution was not allowed to tell the jury about many of the things we have discussed in this video. This includes Kelly and Riley's stories of living with their mother, the recordings of Anne spreading rumors about Scott.
Wait, no way she got off
several
free.
cases of domestic abuse that were filed over the years. None of this was admissible in court. According to Maryland law, using prior bad acts to prove things like motive, opportunity, or intent is admissible
no way she
in
got off
court,
free.
but using prior bad acts to prove the character of a person is not admissible in court. Even with these crippling limitations, the authorities followed through with their prosecution. In November of 2018, Anne's trial took place. The prosecution alleged that Anne had waited for Scott to return home from the casino before carrying out the deadly assault, motivated by a desire to profit from his life insurance policy and gain control over their marital assets.
Bro, life insurance policies be crazy like that? Like, bro, I've seen so many videos where they kill somebody just off the life insurance policy. Bro, damn, nigga. Money that crazy for people, bro. It's never that serious.
They knew the defense would highlight Anne's walking disability and try to say that she was incapable of killing Scott. So the prosecution showed the jury some interesting recordings from Cindy and Marty's home security camera. In most of the clips, Anne can be seen hobbling around on her crutch, but several other times, Anne can be...
Nigga just claimed a hairline check. Bitch, my hairline is out, nigga. Stop claiming hairline checks when my hairline is already out, bro. It doesn't make any sense. You should use that when I have a hat on, dude.
Be seen walking around without a crutch, completely unfazed. The prosecution argued that Anne wasn't the frail old lady that she portrayed herself as, and she was completely capable of killing Scott. After a grueling legal battle, it was time for the jury to deliberate. By the end of the first day, the jury was deadlocked. The judge ordered them to continue deliberating, and on day 2, they had a verdict. Anne was found not guilty and was acquitted of all charges. She immediately began sobbing and thanked God over and over again.
So then who
Just
killed
as
him?
Anne's defense had predicted, most of the prosecution's claims were completely dismantled by the defense during the trial. In a statement leading up to the trial, Anne's defense attorney Andrew Jezik said, "I think the bottom line is that this is a very circumstantial case. There is no smoking gun. There's no confession. There's no text or email.
Hey, she got away with murder, bro.
Whatsoever. There's no DNA. There's no
Who would have
blood.
killed him then?
There's no fingerprints. And he was right. Based on the evidence presented in the trial, there was nothing that directly...
I told y'all, bro, in her prime, bro. In her prime, bro.
...linked Anne to the crimes that she was accused of. The defense also found the idea of Anne killing Scott for money ludicrous. Anne wasn't even the beneficiary for Scott's life insurance money because Scott had taken her off of his policy. It also turns out that Scott had $220,000 in debt that Anne was now responsible for since they were still married. A financial expert for the defense said that if Scott was still alive and the divorce was finalized, Anne would have been around $500,000 richer. As for Anne not seeing Scott's body when she put wood on the fire, the defense had a simple explanation for this as well. It was too dark. They said that this was clear based on Riley's GoPro footage from that night. The defense claimed that the investigators had tunnel vision on Anne since they had been called to the residence so many times for criminal charges and protective orders. Due to double jeopardy rules, the state was not allowed to charge Anne with murder for a second time. However, Anne was charged with 2 felony counts of attempting to influence state witnesses and 1 felony count of obstruction of justice. Allegedly, she tried to convince her kids not to testify against her. Court documents state that Anne made a jailhouse phone call to someone and told them the kids have to be persuaded. And it's important for them not to participate. Tell them that they don't want to participate. The status of these charges is unclear at the time of this video, but if convicted, Anne could face up to 45 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. As for the kids, Riley followed his passion for technology and is now the lead systems engineer for a data center company, while Kelly works as a veterinary surgical technician, carrying on her dad's love for animals.
Damn, bro. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, bro. I feel like she killed him, bro. And she just got away with it because she got away with all the murder and shit, bro. But hey, man, if y'all new, make sure y'all can subscribe, all that shit, bro. Appreciate y'all. Lay up.